Hi, I'm Devin Abrams, aka Pacific Heights, and I'd like to talk a little bit about my new album, A Lost Light. The last album I did was an album called The Stillness, which came out in 2016. And what I think I took from The Stillness into this album was that kind of like real personal attachment that I have with my music. And I found that again with that album. And A Lost Light for me, even though it's a different kind of concept of an album, still carries through those threads that I had from The Stillness that are now, I think, becoming paramount to my music production as Pacific Heights. So I guess what's kind of different with this new album to The Stillness is that this album is not so much about my own personal tribulations, but about someone that I kind of, a personality or character that I experienced in a dream. In that dream, I was the, I guess you could say, protagonist or the lead character, who was a kind of 18, 19-year-old man in early 18th century London. And a lot of exploration was happening at that time and around the seas of the world with the English explorers and sailors. And this young man is, I guess, in the grind, or what I call the first track, the Greystone of London. Life's pretty tough there. He's lower class. He's just married his young wife and is kind of like, I guess you could say, living a similar job to a blacksmith or something like that kind of life. And he stumbles through on one of his walks home this conversation of these sailors are having of this place called the Pacific. And he kind of hangs around the peripheral of this conversation and tries to, you know, steal as much information as he can. It's really exciting to him, the way these sailors talk, the prospects. It's like, I guess, gold mining in a way. So he becomes really excited and goes home, tells his wife that this is something that he overheard and that he wants to investigate it further. And so that next patch, I mean, obviously the timeline for this dream is kind of quite blurry to me because it's, you know, you wake up and you try and keep the core details. So I'm not sure entirely how long this next passage took, but in a nutshell, he kind of talks his way onto the ship through the captain of this boat that's going to this place called the Pacific. He has no sailing skills whatsoever. He doesn't even know what it's like to be at sea, but he gets on this boat in the hopes that he can find a place to move his family away from London. He goes on this ship, and the first two tracks, The Greystone and Lost in a Dream, kind of reflect his naivety but also optimism into, you know, this possibility of a place, this unknown place that could like nurture a better life for his family. And, you know, the first two songs are saying goodbye to London and saying hello to all these dreams and these possibilities. But the album and the story dramatically shifts quite quickly in the third track, called The End Is in Sight. And in this moment, there's an impending storm that comes in that's bigger than anything all these sailors, these experienced sailors, have seen before. And this young man has no idea, first of all, like I said before, what it's like to be at sea, but what it's also like to be in a storm. And so he's asking all the sailors, what do I do? You know, what's happening? Do we survive this? And everyone's rushing around preparing the boat to, you know, navigate these treacherous waters that are impending. This young man basically holds on for dear life to the boat, but unfortunately gets thrown off in the calamity or the peak of the storm. And he quickly realizes that this ship is off in the distance and he's holding on to dear life onto a piece of driftwood or some kind of portion of this ship that's come away. And the next kind of chapter of the album, Colour of the Night, Calling Home, are all these parts of the album where he's like basically saying goodbye to the possibility that this boat and his crewmates will come back for him, and then he's alone at sea, and it's all about survival. And there's moments where it's obviously very intense sonically and compositionally in the album, very dark, and then he kind of like comes through this darkness and realizes that he's still alive, and he sees land and washes up onto this uninhabited island where he spends the next 4 years of his life contemplating isolation and humanity itself. And I guess the album, the journey that I went through in this dream was the feelings of the optimism, the excitement of being in this new kind of exploratory kind of avenue of life, but then also going into the nervousness and isolation and intensity of this survival at sea, and then the loneliness and depth of loss that I felt being on this island. And then I believe right before I woke up from this dream, the question I had, which is the last lyric on the album, is it better to live alone on this island, or is it better to sink at sea with memories of family and love? So hence the name A Lost Light. While this album's very much, I guess, a concept album in nature, I still believe that it's very true representation of Pacific Heights' or my sound. I think I've interweaved my colours and sonic and musical ideas into this story. And I hope that fans of Pacific Heights and fans of the last album will take away what I'm trying to get across musically first and foremost. The story itself is something that inspired me to make this record and helped navigate me through the cohesive album that I think it is. So I hope that people listen to it, maybe with the context or no context, still feel a sense of longing, a sense of maybe personal questions that they need to ask or want to ask about humanity or our relationships with humankind and the planet. But I also hope that by the end of the album, people have kind of been on this journey, you know, whatever it is to them. And I think that's something I've always hoped to achieve with all of my Pacific Heights albums. But this is obviously a slightly different concept. But yeah, I look forward to releasing this to the world again, like The Stillness, and letting it take its own life.